So when you buy a set of strings, you might be referring to your set by a number. A set of 9s, a set of 10s, a set of 12s, etc. Now that number refers to one string in that set. So let me give you an example. Here I've got 3 different sets of DR strings. The first set is a 10, a set of 10s. Then I've got a set of 11s and a set of 12s. Now that number refers to the thickness of the thinnest string in the set. So we're looking at the top E going through to the low E. So we measure string thickness in inches. So a 10 is 10 thousandths of an inch thick, and a 12, 12 thousandths of an inch thick. Now if we quickly compare the sets here, the 10s go 10, 13, 17, 26, 36, 46. 46 thousandths of an inch is your bottom E. Whereas the 11ths go 11, 14, 18, 28, 38, 50. And the 12s go 12, 15, 24, 32, 42, 52. So you can sort of see a pattern happening there. When you get a set though, depending on what company you're buying from, they may have their own range of what they call a 10. The 10s might end, for example, not with a 46, but with a 48. Also, you might get sets where they vary, where the top strings are thinner and the bottom strings are thicker than their standard set. The reason for this is the thickness does make a difference. So a thicker string is going to be harder to bend, but it's also going to sound slightly heavier. So if you think about different types of guitar players, someone that's bending a lot is going to use thinner strings. But maybe they're bending a lot when they're playing their high notes and they're soloing, but they're playing chunky chords because they're playing some sort of metal and they want thicker strings for their bass strings. So there's a reason they might have a difference there. Another reason is the tension in the string is going to be different depending on the thickness of the string. So for example, if we take a top E as a 10 and a top E as a 12, and they're both tuned exactly the same to E, the tension in the 12 is going to be a bit lower because it's a thicker string. That means that if you, for example, are tuning your strings to a different tuning, say you're tuning down, you might want to have thicker strings so the strings don't get more tense. So if you're playing with drop D, drop C, for example, you're going to have a thicker bass string than if you weren't. I hope all this makes sense. But one thing it's worth doing next time you change strings is just to try a different thickness, just to feel how different it feels when you're playing and how different the tone sounds when you're playing. These things are a personal choice, so it's really up to you. But I have heard a lot of guitarists recently on YouTube talking about how they went to lighter strings and it made their sound much brighter, and they've decided to stick with that going forward. Personally, I prefer lighter strings. I always play with 9s or 10s, but I've never really tried playing with a really thick set, so maybe I'll do that myself next time I change. Fantastic! If you found that useful, please give a thumbs up and subscribe. What would be great is if you leave in the comments below what string gauge you use and why you've picked that gauge. Also, I've got a video here which is all about how to string your guitar in the best way. You might want to check that out. Until next time, happy strumming.